All right, welcome back. We are WEBD6201, that's client-side scripting in the winter 2022 semester at Durham, and it's week 11, part 2 of our broadcast and time together. And let's talk a little bit about what we did last time. So last day we got together, we were talking about an intro to MongoDB and NoSQL databases, what all those things are. We also talked about and actually performed CRUD operations on the command line. We did that together in Mongo, which is okay. We talked about mongoose, which is an NPM module, and how it connects nicely to MongoDB through Express. That's what we did last time. And what I want to do this time, we still have MongoDB Atlas to do today, which you guys just signed up for. But we're also going to be completing full CRUD with our database, modifying stuff. I've already put the lab report up for you guys to complete for your in-class exercise. So that's there. And so let's complete the stuff that we haven't done already. So I'm gonna, without further ado, I'm gonna get right into coding here because we have lots to cover. All right, so last day, let's try and run this thing. As always, when I start off, I'm always gonna do a Control-Shift-B to transpile. Let's do that first, Control-Shift-B, right? And let's transpile with the watch task. There we go. I'm also gonna run our MongoDB or MonGod server, right? Let's do that now. We won't need this after today for the most part. Here's MonGod, that's running. And remember, we have a little server running a command line. We're just going to minimize this. We don't need it anymore. Inside of our Visual Studio Code, I'm going to run nodemon. There's nodemon that's going to run. It should connect to my MongoDB server if there's no issues. There it is. Awesome. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to run Mongo. And what Mongo's going to do is going to connect us to our database where we can do a show DBS, which means let's show me the database, right? MonGod? Mongo. In a new terminal. Doesn't matter. I just put a new terminal inside of our Visual Studio Code. So here I said show DBS, and then if I go to use contacts, that's going to make me switch to the contacts database. Then I can go db.contacts. I call the collection contacts as well, .find.pretty. And then we can see the contacts we have right now, or the three contacts we had in last time, Peter Parker, you can do whatever you want, something else. Those are my three. And then when we ran our localhost, let's do the localhost thing. So here it is. Then I can see that everything is good. If I go to contact us and go to contact list, it redirects. But if I go back to here, you can see that inside of my Node.js, I got my contacts here on the console. There it is, right? So that means I'm reading from the database, but it's not going anywhere. So what I want to do, I want to stop reading from local storage. No more local storage today, right, after today. I want to take away my auth guard because auth guard's not doing much for me anyway, and next week we're going to talk about authentication either way, so no more auth guard for today. I'm going to modify my route index.ts, my route file, so that I can do all the CRUD operations, but I need support for all my views, which are my contact list.ejs, that has to be modified. I have to modify my edit.ejs file. I have to modify my index.ejs file, which is my main view. You're going to see all those things modified. Those are the modifications that I'm going to make today. My app.ts file has to be pruned. I have to take stuff away from it, and I have to modify it so that it supports validation for edit and add. And I also have to add it in or modify it, take away stuff that I don't need. So let's start with that. So we're going to go into our right into our, on the client side, we're going to go into scripts, app.ts. And what I want to do with the app.ts, I'm just going to close this off. I'm going to go down, all the way down into our selector, which is this little thing here. And I'm going to just remove auth guard so we can start seeing our contact list from here as well as from my edit. We know it works, and it was a good test, so how it worked on the front end. But now what we want to do is we want to see that we can go to the contact list, and we should be able to see the contact list with no problems. Okay? So I'm doing this because I don't want to keep switching back and forth. I want to be able to see it, and next week we're going to do the auth guard thing, logging in properly and all that stuff.
You just moved that from contact list, right?
Sorry?
You just moved it from contact list.
And from edit.
And from edit, okay.
Yeah. So that's cool. And what I want to do next is I want to start modifying or start thinking about how I'm going to use my my route that I have, right? And the route that I have right now, if we go back into here, let's just get rid of this for a second. And let's go into our routes, index.ts. We can see that at the bottom where we have our reading, we read from the contact list here, where it says router.get, we use a get request, contact list is the route. We do a contact.find, where we find all contacts. We return the contacts collection, right? And right now we're just console logging it, right? That's all we're doing. What we want to do is not console log it, but inject all of our contacts backend into the page, right? But our page right now does not support this, our view.ejs, which is our contact list.ejs. Let's go there. So I'm going to just close this off for now. And I'm going to open up my views, and I'm going to go to my contact list.ejs, and you're going to see that there's nothing here that supports that whatsoever. However, if I go back to my client side, and I go to my scripts, and I go to my app.ts, and I swim up to where it says display, notice that there is display contact list page, and if I go to definition for this one, or you can find it another way, however you want to find it, right? On the bottom, there is this repeatable row. I want to take this repeatable row, pretty much copy paste it into my contact list.ejs page and start making it work on the back end, right? This is the front end. So again, all I want to do, let's do a split screen. And on one side, I want to do my app.ts. On the other side, I want to do my index route. My contact list.ejs, which is inside my views folder. This one. So this one's going to look here. And I'm just going to hide this stuff. So here's this view, and this is the one from my app.ts. I'm going to grab all of this, all my TR, from the TR from here down to there, copy this, and go into my contact list.ejs page. And what I want is in the T body, I want to paste that in right here, somewhere. Like so. Okay. Now, this isn't going to work the way it is. I've just borrowed it from here. I'm going to close this off for now. We don't need this. We just need this part, the contact list.ejs. I just don't want to type all this again. That's not necessary, right? What I want to do is this. I want to use EJS to make this a repeatable row. So let's just use, I'll use a little HTML comment, which is, this is the repeatable row, right? And what I want to do here is use EJS, and what we can do with EJS is we can use a for loop. So we can say for let count is equal to 0, where count is less than contacts.length. Wait a minute, contacts, where is that contacts coming from? Count plus 1, from nowhere right now is the answer. And I'm going to open up a curly brace, but I'm not going to close it. And I'm going to close it off with a percent greater than sign. So what I want to do at the bottom of the repeatable row section, we're going to open up a percent, less than percent, and put the closing curly brace. And what this signifies to EJS, I'm just going to split this off so you can see it better, is notice the blue part. This is the opening brace, this is the closing brace, this is the opening brace, this is the closing brace. You can see that the curly brace is here and the other closing curly brace is here. Could I have put this on another line? Maybe. Why? Not for this stuff. So now this will loop for contacts length times. However, we don't have a contacts object. And what I want to do is we need to pass the contacts object through the router into this page. Okay, that's what we haven't done yet. So it's not going to work yet. However, when we do get it, let's assume we have it for a second, then this is wrong. So it's not going to be contact full name. Instead, it's going to be, we're going to inject our contacts count dot full name here, right? Because we're going to inject it using Ejs, right? So I'm going to grab this, just copy paste it, because there's a lot of things I can save my time with. So copy paste, please, just to save time. And this will be contact number, and this will be email address, right? We also have to change this piece. There's no injection of index. There's no more index. We're going to use count plus 1. So let's do that. So we're going to say that's equal to count plus 1, where I'm taking the count from the for loop and I'm injecting it right in this space right here. Okay? This also needs to change down here. Right now, they are buttons, but they can't be buttons anymore because buttons require JavaScript on the back end. We're going to make them anchor tags. So let's change the button to anchor tags for all these. And let's change the value to an href. Now, of course, the key cannot be this can't be the key anymore. What we're going to write instead is something that looks like this. We're going to have the root is /edit/ and then we're going to inject the contacts count dot underscore ID. So why that? Because the underscore ID comes from the database, remember? Maybe you don't. Well, we can see it right here. This is what it looks like, right? That underscore ID is think about this, unique ID for each of the documents in the collection. Okay? So that's good. And we want to do the same thing here. So just copy this whole line here and replace this part. But instead of edit, we want to do delete, because this is the delete part. And you can see that because if you follow it through here on the right, it says this one is an edit button with an edit icon, and this one is a delete button with a trash icon. Okay? So that's what that looks like. Okay? Are you with me on this? So this is good. So are you good? Yes? No?
So to prove my understanding, we take another month for me to fill, so I'm just going to kind of go along with it.
I don't want you not to have understanding. I want you to know everything I know. I want to touch your hand and I want to transfer all my knowledge to you, some kind of superpower. Can I do that?
With you, I haven't understood anything that's happened in this class for like 6 weeks.
What?
Yeah.
I know, it's tough. It's tough to keep up, right? So it's really hard.
It's not your fault. You're a terrific teacher. Sorry, I'm just pissed off about taking that exam.
I'm sorry. All right, so this is the first part. Now, what we want to do is, at the top, we also have a button, right? This button cannot be a button. Let's make it an anchor tag, please. And we want to add an href tag up here, too. So we'll say href equals to /add. Why /add? Well, we have one page, an edit page, right? But I want to tell the edit page what I want to do, either adding or editing. And I can do that with routing. I can say if I put a /add, I want to color the page, change it so it looks like an add page. And if I put /edit with something else, with my data, my ID, I can color it and say it's an edit page. That's what I want to do. But I can use one single page to do that. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here. No changes pretty much anywhere here else. Once we've got this piece done, pretty much the contact list Ejs page is done. Let's save that. And now let's go back to the routing part. Once this page is done, I want to go back to the router. So that's going to be inside of my routes index.ts. And in the index.ts where we have this piece, well, we're already reading from it, but instead of rendering out here and doing a console log, let's get rid of this console log, goodbye. And instead, I want to grab this res render function, and I want to cut it out and move it inside of here. But instead of not sending it in, we need, remember, we need a contacts property. So we need to make it. So we're going to say title, page, and then after page we'll say contacts. And the name of the contacts is the contacts collection, which is right here. Just copy paste, comma, and then at the last part we're going to have the display name, which we haven't changed. Okay? So what this is going to do is it's going to take the contacts collection that we found from the database and inject it into the contact list Ejs page through the contacts property of the object that we're sending in. That's what's happening. Okay, we're going to save this, and if everything goes well, if we go back out to our page, and if I refresh, then we're going to see this data, and this data is coming from our database, not from our local storage anymore.
I got a mess. Yeah, is it like all blue and everything?
Where?
I think I'm missing a closing tag on something.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
It says could not find a closing tag or something. So,
I'm going to put this, don't worry, I'm going to put this up on GitHub so you can see, you can compare mine with yours. So we'll say modified contact list page and route. Yes. All right, so that's done. You guys should have that. And what we've done was we fixed it up. We can read the page. And if I go to, we still have some issues. If I go back here and if I click add contact, we're going to fail because there is no add route, right? And if I pick edit contact, we're going to fail. Wait, what's this? How can I go there? How come it's showing this stuff? Because it's still doing the old stuff. This is not right, right? There is no edit that we're injecting in here, right? This is actually looking at it from the, there is no, this isn't right. So you can see because there's no route here, right? So that's weird. That should have been fixed, shouldn't it? Well, we do know it's fixed, but we need to refresh. If I refresh the page and I click on it now, then, well, wait, what? How come it's working? It doesn't make any sense. Shouldn't work. Unless we didn't change this properly. How about this? Did we change this? Well, that looks like it's okay. And we know it's broken because there is no route for that. Right? So let's take a look at the page again. Let's go back to that our contact list.ejs page. And let's decipher what's happening, just for a second. So if I go to views and I go to content and I go to contact list.ejs, well, we have our href here, right? We have our class, and it should be a link that we're getting here, right? Not a button. However, and this is true, however, we still have our our front-end JavaScript running, and what it's doing is it's picking up that button, whatever it is, and redirecting it. Still. So what we need to do is go back to our app.ts file inside of our client side. This one. And what we need to do we need to remove or comment out all of the stuff in the if statement. So from this point on, we can use folding in Visual Studio Code to do that easier, right? Where we can just comment out this entire part and go to edit and toggle block comment. Right? So I don't have to do that whole thing. That's not really something I want to do anymore, right? We can still go to the display contact list, and we will modify this one more time, but we don't want to do display contact anymore. Not the way we did it. So if I go back now to this and refresh, we need to refresh every time now. If I click edit, then it should give us this, because there is no edit, There is no link for this. That's what it should do. And the same thing goes with the delete. The delete should do the same thing, because there is no delete functionality right now. So the only thing that's working right now is this page. It'll display everything, but it can't add, edit, or delete. We're going to put that functionality in place now. All right, so now that we have this, we can see it, right? We want to at least go to the add page. Okay, I want to be able to fix the add page. Let's go to that edit.ejs page and do that one next. Okay, so process. If I want to add a root, I first fix my EJS stuff, then I go to the root and do that. Sometimes people do it the other way around. They do the root first, and then they do the EJS page. I like to do the EJS page first. There's more work involved, believe it or not. So let's go into the EJS page for edit. So again, I'm going to go to my, close this one down, keep the index.ts file open. I'm going to go into my content for my edit.ejs page. There are some issues here. So I want to use my edit page for both editing and adding. So instead of edit contact here at the top in the H1 tag, let's change it. And I'm going to inject my title. So if my title is add, it's going to say add contact. If my title is edit, it's going to say edit contact. That's the first change. I'm going to go down. Form. Before, we were not using the form data at all, right? We never had to process the form because the form was being taken care of by the JavaScript side on the front end. But now we want to process the form. We want to make a post request. To do that, we need to add a method to the form, which you guys have seen before, I'm sure, which is a post method. So the post method will send a post request to the server, and we have to be able to capture that request or respond to it, right, with another type of route. Okay? So that's the second change. Next, we cannot just do input anymore, right? Because what we want to do here, right, in this thing altogether, is we want to be able to inject some kind of value into each of the input statements. Isn't that correct? For example, I want to input whatever the contact is, first name or full name, contact number, and email address inside of the inputs when I'm editing. That means I need to pass in a contact object to the page somehow, right? I must, otherwise I can't do it. So inside the input, I'm going to say value is equal to, and again, if you think about what this is, I want to say, I want to put a contact dot my full name in here. Does this make sense? Because the value is going to be basically what's going to be held inside of the every item. And what I want is for me to inject each of the pieces of data inside of all of the inputs. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go to the next input. I'm just going to put it somewhere in there that I can see it, like this. Doesn't matter where, because your attribute can be put anywhere in the element for HTML. Doesn't matter. So this will be contact number. But there's an assumption we're making, right? The assumption is that we have a contact object. We do not have this right now. We need to put one in through the router, like we did last time. So in here, I'm going to go Control V, and this one will be email address. So now we have a mechanism to both post the form and inject data if I want to, if I'm editing, right? Cool. Now the buttons. This is problematic, these buttons here. So I'm going to do something different than what we've done before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, use EJS to do an if statement. So I'm going to say if my title is equal to edit, then don't do the closing brace, but we can say that we can put a kind of a line break here, and we can say that so closing brace else opening brace without the closing brace again, else do something, and then finally at the bottom before the end of the form, right, we want to be able to close that off again. So these braces enable us to section off our code and do some dynamic code changes. Like for example, this button here, right, that we have, we're going to replace it. We're going to copy the whole thing. And we're going to go and paste it in here, but we're going to change it. We're going to say, okay, if it's the edit button, then the ID will be edit button. If it's the add button or something else, we'll make it the add button. It'll be both submit types, so they'll submit the form, which means they'll process the form. However, instead of FA edit, we'll say FA plus dash circle for the icon, and this will be changed to add. So the edit button will look like an add button. We're just swapping out the buttons. Are you getting what I'm saying? So I do an if statement, and then I'll either put one in, I'll generate one button or the other, whichever one I need. The one that I don't generate gets removed or ignored. Okay? Also, for the last button, which is my cancel button, instead of making it a button, let's make it an anchor tag with an href of /contact list. And we'll change the type from reset to button. That's it for the edit form.
So the edit ones are remaining buttons?
What was that?
So the edit and add are remaining buttons.
The edit and add, these two buttons here, they're going to stay as submit. And they're going to be buttons because if we click one of these buttons, edit or add, we're going to do something with them. And it's going to be the submit action. Oh, it's automatic, right? I don't have to script that. That's part of the form, right? But this one, I'd have to use a script for this one to make it work properly. And I don't want to. I want to do everything on the back end. So instead, I'm just going to replace it with an href. Right? I'm trying to convert my front end to back end. Right? That's what I'm doing. Okay, now that I have this, then even now, I can adjust my routes. Let's do my route. So go back to index.ts, and right now I have an edit route. Let's change it. So we're going to say, we're going to display the add page. How does this look when we display the add page? Well, it's a GET request, but the route is add route. And we're going to say, go to the index view template. Instead of edit contact, let's just put in add. It's going to go to the edit page, but we need a contact piece of data. We don't have one right now. So guess what we're going to do? We're just going to put a dummy piece of data in here like this. Contact is equal to nothing. Why? This satisfies the requirement of the contact object in your page, this thing right here, right? If I didn't have this, the page would crap out. It would go like, what? You're asking me for contact, but I'm not getting anything. I don't know what to do. I'm done, right? Here I put it in, so even if it's empty, it's still going to make something empty, and it's going to inject empty into those places, right? Which means nothing, right? All right, so that's the first part. That's our add page. Let's see if this works, the add page. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to refresh. And if I click add, it should take us to this empty page. Shouldn't. That's because your curly braces, your opening clothing tags are broken somehow.
Yeah, I've got 2 extra contacts.
Yeah.
Should I make the title add contact instead of add? Just because it's not saying add contact at first, maybe it just says add.
It should say add here too, but here this should be add contact.
Yeah, what says add?
Well, that means that your page itself only says that. So that means in your edit.ejs at the top, it should say title contact.
Oh, I didn't see that last part.
Yeah.
The bottom of the edit.ejs.
This part? I know it's kind of hard to see because it's maximized. It's weird. This monitor it is what it is.
The one that I had was it basically switched the right button to the right side, but it switched the other one on the right side.
Oh, you got your
Mine does it automatically.
That's what happened when I had the big issue. I was like, what's going on?
Okay, so once this is done, we've got our add, but how do I do edit? Edit takes more effort because I have to go to the database, retrieve the item from the database, and then inject it into the database, okay? So let's do that route. So here's the next route. So I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to go down in here, and I'm going to say we're going to display the edit page with data injected from the database, right? That's what that is. So how do I do that? Well, the root can't be this anymore. It's got to look like this, /:ID. Okay, what? So this is a piece of syntax that is very specific to Mongoose and Express. Okay, it's not JavaScript specific. All right, it's Mongoose thing, right? And an Express thing. So how this works is this part is a parameter, right? So the way I can get that then is I can do something like, let's just code it, let ID equal to a request.params.id. Okay, where the heck did that ID come from, right? Because, and how did I know request params? Remember the request object, right? It has a params. We went through this when I was talking about Express at the beginning. It has a params object inside of it. And params, whatever you feed it here, if I call this :Tom, then I can put Tom here. That's how flexible it is. Whatever you put here is what's going to be here. It's a friendly name for you. But it expects something that comes after the slash, after the edit. It expects something to be put in there. Okay, so that's what it's going to do. The first thing is, let's put in a param. The next thing that we want to do is we need to use some code to access the database, right? Because that's the next part. How do I access the database, and what will my code look like when I'm reading the database? Okay, so we read the database with the contact list, but how do we read the database for the edit? So we have our ID. We want to do something that looks like this. I'm going to say, hey, we want to pass the ID to the database somehow and read the contact in. That's what we want to do. That's what our scope is, our purpose. We want to say, hey, contact, let's find by ID. That's a convenience function. And find by ID, we can pass in the ID followed by some options. And I recommend putting this, guys. Open brace, open closing brace, followed by comma, followed by open closing brace, followed by a function that includes an error and some kind of contact to edit. It's up to you what you want to call that. That's my name that I'm using. But you can put whatever you want in here for what this parameter is called. Okay? And then what I want to do is, if I have an error, if I encounter an error somehow, we want to kill the server if we encounter an error at this point. So we want to say something like console, let's console out that error. And we want to res end. A res end stops the message, right? Otherwise, if I get to this point, I want to show the edit view with the data. All right, that's what I want. And how does that look? I'm not going to leave that res render here. I'm going to grab that res render, cut it out, and put it inside here. And just like we did last time, we need to inject the contact information, which is our contact to edit. We're going to take this contact to edit and replace this empty string with that data. Does that make sense? So first, we're getting the ID. We're searching the database for that ID. We're returning back some data, and we're going to store it here. And then we're going to take the data we stored here, we're going to inject it back into the page inside something called contact, which is what we were looking for in the edit page, right? Okay, save. And if everything goes well with this one, are you guys good? Yes? No? Okay. Then if I go here and if I refresh the page and click edit, we should see this garbage right here. So now we have a problem, another problem. Why are we getting this? This is peculiar, right? Because we're getting this. We're getting like no CSS working and and really bad stuff. Does anyone have a clue why we're getting this now?
What's that said? Doesn't have our CSS.
Doesn't have our CSS, but why? It should, because we're going through the view template, right? So why is this not having our CSS? What do you think? Take a guess, random guess. Don't worry, guys. Best guess, the guesses are good.
Because it's asynchronous.
No, but I like your thinking. No, not this time. No.
Is there a point where we're importing CSS that it's not being read after by the time this is rendering?
No, it's not that reason. It's very simple. It's pathing. The reason why it's not pathing properly is because of our URL. Take a look at the URL.
It's a relative path.
It's a relative path, and we're going down a step. Look at that. We're going to a subdomain, a sub link, and when I go down a step to the sublink, it doesn't know how to go to the stuff that we need. So how we can change that is to go and modify our index.ejs and put a slash. So we're going to go back into our index.ejs, our template. That's here. But I'm glad that you guys guessed. It's good to guess, right? Because it's learning too. And all these things that have bootstrap and all this stuff, just put a slash in front. And that will solve our problems for now. And create other ones.
We keep going back and forth on that.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. We keep on modifying our stuff. We're breaking and making. And breaking again. If I save that, if I put all slash in front of all these,
Do you need anything in the scripting section?
No. Well, I mean, look, everything has to have a slash in front of it. Everything has to have a slash in front of it. Make sure you have a slash in front of everything, Jacob. I want to go back and refresh. Now we're good. So that, and let's check out if we're still good previously.
But you said
Add contact. Yeah.
this is edit.
This is an edit. What's going on? What's wrong with this picture? Why are we seeing add contact?
Change the title of that message.
No. Something else went wrong. So let's see what it is. So we pressed edit, and then we're saying add contact. Well, we're showing the contact, yay, that's good. But bad, we're seeing add contact, not the other one. Let's make sure the route is correct. So first I check the route.
The title still says add.
The title still says add, and let's change this to edit. That's all it is. Refresh. Okay, so now we can read both the add page and the edit page and the contact list page. We have all those read capabilities. Let's put this up on GitHub. All right, great. So we've done reading. Reading, we're done. We did that piece. Now we need to create. Let's modify our add button so it actually works. In order for me to do that, I'm going to change the request from a GET request to a POST request. Okay? So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to go, this is still in my router. I'm going to go back to the add area here. I'm going to copy this add route. And I'm going to copy it and paste it in here. However, we're not going to display anything anymore. In fact, what we're going to do is process. We're going to process the add request. That's what we're going to do. Process the add request. And we're going to change this from a router.get to a router.post. Like so. Now here's where it changes. When we do our post request, right, we need to create a new contact. That's what we're going to do here. And we're no longer going to res render. So this res rendering stuff, it's going to be gone. Let's just take it out for now. What we're going to do instead is I'm going to instantiate a new contact, right? Because we need to do that to add. And that's going to look like this. We'll call it new contact, or whatever you want, is equal to a new contact. And I want to use constructor notation with a curly brace. The curly brace needs a schema type, which is full name. And now I want to use the request.body. full name with a lowercase f. Why lowercase f? Why does it have to look like this? Why not? Why isn't it uppercase f like everything else?
Because the parameter being passed by the form is lowercase.
Absolutely. The parameter being passed by the form is a lowercase f. Let's prove this out. So that's inside of my edit page, right? In the parameter, you can see that the names, which are the parameters, are all lowercase, 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 right? If I put uppercase in here, it would fail. It wouldn't store anything. It would get 0 data. It wouldn't stop. It wouldn't give you an error. The database would be empty. It would create a new entry in the database, a new empty document with nothing inside of it, just the ID. That's what it would do, okay? So going back to this then, what we want is we want rec.body.fullname, comma, we're creating our contact, and we're gonna do the same thing here twice. We're gonna say full name, contact number. This is lowercase contact number. Make sure you spell it correctly, guys. And this is email address, lowercase email address. Okay, no more comma at the end. So that's our new contact. Yay, we made a contact, awesome. Now, what we need to do after we instantiate a new contact, right? What we want to do is we want to insert. So insert contact into database, right? Well, how does that work? Normally it'd be an insert, but we're going to actually use something else. Contact.create is what it's going to be. We're going to pass in our new contact, and we're going to use an error function. But the function in this case to make TypeScript shut up is we're going to put in error callback. That's what's going to silence TypeScript a little bit. And the error is going to be the exact same. If error, then what I want is console.error, error, and I want to response end with the error. Why is this happening every single time? Why am I repeating this over and over again? Because I want to stop my server if any of this happens. If I can't do one of these operations, something is really wrong. And I don't want to not do this. Some people, what they do is they make a little error function that takes in the error itself and does this exact thing over and over again. So to save like typing. I don't really care, it's not that many lines. So what I want to say is, at this point, if we got to there, the new contact has been added, I can't see, has been added to the database, so go to the contact list, which means I want to do a res.redirect to the contact list. So there is no display, it's just a processing. Nothing is being displayed here. Res redirect redirects me back to the contact list, and I refresh the contact list and I can see the new contact in the list. That's the magic. So it looks like I just added a new contact. But actually I'm adding it and then going back and displaying the contact list again for the user. So it looks right. All right, so let's do that. So save and let's try it out. So back to this, and we'll go back to cancel and we'll add a new contact. Let's try it out. So we'll do Bruce Banner. Oh. And his phone number 416-555-5552, and then the Hulk at example.com. And then if I click add, things should work. And I have Bruce Banner here. And I can edit it too, right? So that's pretty cool. Are you guys good?
I'm getting at some more problems
The edit?
When I click on the other button, just submit it.
Make sure that your edit.ejs page is formed properly, because if it's got the wrong thing, if it's a button and if your button is not, or your form is not a post method, then it won't post anything anywhere. Okay, I'll post this. You compare my code to your code. I don't know what the issue is off the top of my head. Let's put this up on GitHub. So again, I'm now able to create, added, contact, create functionality. Right? Nice and easy. Clickety clack. We're good. And what I want to do now, after we edit it, we've added. We haven't edited it yet, and we haven't done delete yet. I'm going to do the delete first because delete is easier. Edit is more involved. So let's do the delete first. And I always do this, by the way. I always do the delete. So delete is kind of like the edit, right? Because I have, instead of edit, I have a delete in here, right? So I'm going to grab the display edit page. And one thing to know is that edit is not a post request because I'm not submitting a form. There's no form submitted at all, right? I'm clicking on a button. Button clicks that are not form related are like GET requests. They're hrefs, right? So what I'm going to do here is do the same thing. I'm going to say that process the delete request. And I'm going to change this edit to delete. And when I press the delete, I'm going to pass the ID in here just like this. Instead of, pass the ID to the database and delete it, delete the contact. Then, instead of find by ID, when we do the delete, it's going to be remove, right? So it's going to be a remove. But for the remove to function, I need to pass in a filter that looks like _ID : ID. That's the filter. I don't need all of this, right? And I don't have anything to edit. I just need to pass in an error, like so. So this removes it. If there's an error, good. If not, then the delete was successful. And now I don't want to do a res render, I want to do a res redirect. To contact list again, which is kind of what we did with our front end stuff all the time. We kept on redirecting back to contact list to kind of refresh the page. This is our delete function. See, I told you it was easy. Painless, because all we're doing is doing the same kind of commands we did on the command line, but we're translating them into something that works with Mongoose, right? Okay, let's go back and try it. So refresh, and let's delete Bruce Banner. Oh man, it deleted them and it didn't even give me a thing. Are you sure? Why? Because our app.ts on the client side needs to be adjusted. We've taken away the buttons and we've added anchor tags. Now the jQuery is missing. It's not targeting properly, right? We need to fix that on the app.ts side. For now though, we're going to continue with our journey of doing full CRUD. We've done create, read, and delete. Right? Let's put this up on GitHub. Added, delete, functionality. Cool. So now the edit. Now the edit's more involved, but not that much more difficult, just a little bit more involved. And so we've done a page read with the edit data, but now edit is kind of like a mix between add and edit, or find. Add and read. That's what kind of like what edit is, right? So let's grab everything from here, this edit one, and we'll put it in there. And we still need the ID, right? Because we're still editing. So we're still going to do this request params. But instead of a GET request, we're going to do a POST request because we're going to process the edit request. So we're going to process the edit request. How does that work? Well, instead of contact find by ID, first we need to do, we have to set up a new contact. Let's do this again up here. So I'm going to grab this new contact I did already in the add, copy it. I'm going to skip down to where we're doing that, post request for the edit and paste it back in here. Except that, let's just rename the contact to something like updated contact. And the only thing I want to change with this one is instead of just adding a full name, I also want to modify the ID. And now you should have questions for me before you continue. So I have a contact to add when I add one in, but why am I doing this same thing when I'm editing? Why not just update one field? Why? Why don't I just only update the field that I want to? What if I only change the contact number, but I'm updating the whole thing? Why? Yeah. Right, but why every field? Why am I changing every field in the contact? In my command line, I can just do a set command.
Would it be because maybe something gets set to like nothing? Would it say
No, just because it's easier. Because I'm a lazy guy.
I actually thought
right?
that. I don't want to say
You know
that.
why? Because how do I know which one got changed?
Okay.
Right? I got to go and do some other fancy stuff with JavaScript to go, oh, this one changed, only update that one. Forget it, man. This has changed the whole thing, right? It's just easier. It's brute force, but it works, right? So I'll tell you, I've always done it this way, and I prefer it this way because it's just easier and it works every single time. If JavaScript fails in the front end or the back end, this won't work, and then you'll get weird stuff in your database. Forget it. So this is why I do it this way. Okay. So now that we've got a contact edit, I want to, it's almost like I want to do that db.contacts.update. That's what I want to do, right? Except it's like that, but it looks like this, contact.update1. That's the actual one we have to use. We're going to pass in a reference again, a filter, which is going to look like underscore ID colon ID, like that again. And then we're going to pass in the updated contact, and we're going to remove all this gobbledygook. But we don't care about this, the contact to add. It's just the error callback again. So we're going to flag it as an error callback. So again, very similar to what we did before. If I can just type and use the arrows properly. So this is the same, and this won't be res render anymore because we're not rendering anything. It's going to be a res.redirect to the contact list page, and it won't be, it'll say that the edit was successful if we reached here. So now go to the contact list page. Okay, so the edit is a little bit more involved. It's like an add and a find in many ways. That's what the update is, right? We're finding something. And it's almost the exact same code on the inside, right? So let's see if it works. So back to the drawing board. I want to add our contact back in. Let's add Bruce Banner again. Or another one if you want. And then it's the Hulk at example.com. Add them back in, and then we'll edit them. And we'll change the phone number from 557 to 552 and click edit. And if everything went well, ta-da, we're good to go. So Bruce Banner, he's good. And we've done full CRUD at this point. Create, read, update, and delete. Guys, I'll tell you right now, in most other times before this one, because I've built up the stuff that I have with you and we've developed all of our views way ahead of time, I was able to do this in 1 week. Normally, it takes 2 to 3 weeks to do this properly because I need to build up the view, explain how it works, talk about view engines. We did all that in the first half, pretty much of semester. So now it's just a matter of changing stuff up to work with Express, right? That's why it's so quick, if you want to call it quick. All right, so let's put this up on GitHub, and we have some housekeeping to do after this. Git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll say added update functionality. Awesome. Housekeeping. What does housekeeping mean? We have our app.ts that has some issues, remember? So let's go in there. Let's close this one off. Let's close this one off. Let's go into our client side app.ts, this part. And I'm in the display contact list page. Okay. Well, of course the delete didn't function because we commented it out right here. Ooh, there it is. We need to grab this delete search feature. I want to cut it out, and I want to put it underneath all this mess. And what it's going to say is instead of a button will not function. Remember, we've replaced the buttons in our contact list with anchor tags, so this will not work. jQuery will misfire if you do this. So change the button to an anchor tag. That's important. And instead of the confirm going to local storage, which makes no sense, let's kill local storage here. That's not going to happen. Instead, what we're going to say is, if we're not successful, if we don't want to delete, we can do a not. So if I press cancel, then I want to refresh the contact list. But there's a problem here. Because I'm using a form, my friends, and if I press the button on the form, whether I like it or not, it's going to perform the submit action, which I never want to happen. I want to control it, so I'm going to prevent default behavior. Let's do that by putting in an event up here. And then before we refresh, we're going to say event.prevent default. And this will work now, hopefully. Save. And let's kill all these comments. We don't need all these comments here anymore because we've already done a bunch of commits. We have all documentation that we need. So now this is my display contact list page function. Okay? And if I go back here and if I refresh the page and if I try and delete, we should get this thing. If I press cancel, it cancels. If I do it and press OK, goodbye, Bruce Banner. Okay, so now we've got that back. Couple more things. We have to do form validation for both the edit page and the add page. We're not doing it for the add page right now because we only have the edit link inside of our switcher, inside of our app.ts. So let me show you that. So inside of our switcher, which is way down here, we have the following. We have our home, about, project, services, contact list, edit, but we don't have an add. Let's add another one. We could do fall through and add the add, kind of with no break, but I'm not going to do that here because it's not type safe and people don't like that. Other developers would scream at you. So for an extra couple lines, I'm okay. I'll let them not scream at me. But we have to modify the display edit page. Let's go there. So let's go to definition for that. And there's some other garbage in here. For example, I don't need any of this stuff. Because we're not going to do anything on the front end anymore. We can, with local storage, let's just get rid of it all. So all of this, all the way down to this. Right? I know, Jacob, you're going to say, we broke it again. We killed it. We destroyed it. We deleted. Yes, we did. And that's what our edit page is going to look like now. So really, our display contact list and our display edit page are really small. Why? Because we're doing a lot of this functionality on the back end now. We don't need all of it. We need some of it for validation, but we don't need anything else. In fact, if you think about it, I can just say contact form validation, and that's it. But I'm not going to do that. Okay, let's try this out and see if that works. So I'm going to go back to this. And if I go to the add contact page and I type in A and then tab, we have our contact form validation. We're back to this again. We're good to go, right? Which is what I want. Great, let's put this up on GitHub. And now the fun starts. Cleaned up app.ts, so scripts, app.ts. All right. Now officially we're into part 2 of today. So part 1 was getting CRUD working. We did it. And we accomplished our goal. And that was a hard goal. Because this week we did Intro to Express. We did the Express generator, all that kind of stuff this week, right, with Mongoose. So last week was Intro to Express with Express generator. This week was Mongoose and MongoDB. We never did MongoDB before. We did full CRUD on MongoDB, and next week we're going to do authentication, all in 1 week, right? That's how we roll. So typically, like I said, something like this with full explanations and more theory and blah, 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 a couple weeks, okay? No explanations, no theory. Here it is, code complete, and we're getting it done. Okay, so next, I want to put this up on MongoDB Atlas. But before we do that, I want to copy all this into our Heroku live site repo, right? So let's do that next. So first, let's close down Visual Studio Code, please. And in order for me to do that gracefully, I want to close off MongoDB. Actually, sorry. Let's not do that yet. Wait. Go back. Let's do the MongoDB Atlas first. There's a reason for that. Wait, I'm ahead of myself. I'm excited. That's what it is. I'm excited about MongoDB Atlas. All right, so let's go there. So MongoDB Atlas. Woo. So when I go to MongoDB Atlas, here's what we're going to do, the steps. If you've already signed in and you're already created a project, which maybe you have, yes? If you haven't, you can just create a new project. That's what we want to do. So the way to do it, it would be like something like new project, okay? I'm going to create a new project, okay? And when I do it, it's going to take me to this page where I can name my project. Are you there with me? Okay. The project name for me is going to be WEBD6201, Winter 2022, and it's going to be section 1. You guys are section 1, right? Next, I'm going to add permissions. It says, who do I want to add? Just me. You don't have to add me. I'm just going to click Create Project here. So Create Project. When I go back in, it's going to say Build a Database. I'll wait for you here. Let me know when you're there. Huh?
Name the project section 1.
Section 1. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like I just recommend WEBD6201 Zoe Strauss.com.
And then there's nothing else to change. Press create project right after.
Yeah. Yep. And then if I go here to build a database, let's go build a database together. When I build a database, this is where I get into this little fancy thing. Do I want to spend 8 cents an hour? No. I don't want to do any of these things. I want to just press share it and create, please, for free. Yay. Now it's going to tell me, okay, cool. Now that you've made the free tier, which one do you want? I want Azure, like I told you to do. Azure gives me the closest data center is Toronto. Okay, that's what I want, Toronto. I want to create my cluster. When I finish creating my cluster, it's going to take me to this username and password. I'm going to put in a username. You put whatever username you want. I'm going to put in some name that's relating to me. Okay, my password, I'm going to be smart about it, and I'm going to auto-generate it. I'm not going to try and think about a password. If you want to think about a password that you want to use that's secure, go ahead. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it because I need to remember it later, and I can't remember secure passwords. And I'm going to, like most people, I'm going to put it in my notepad. Here's my notepad. I'm just going to copy and paste it in there. What was that? No money. If you're paying money, you press the wrong thing. Yep. If you're building a database with a dedicated server, it's going to get you to pay money. If you're building a database with a shared server, you pay no money. Okay, now that I've got this, I auto-generated it, and I put my password in. I'm going to click Create User. And once I've created my user, I'm going to scroll down, and it's going to say, okay, what do I want to do? I have my local environment or my cloud environment. I want to do my local environment. Now, what IP address should I use? This is an IP address filter, which basically prevents people from, hacking your account, really, for this particular database, right? So for us, we don't care because we're just sharing together. But in reality, if we were going to manage this database, you would probably have it from a couple of IP addresses, probably one from your office or home, and you would put a specific address. Now, if I clicked Add My Current IP Address, that's here at the school, and it would give me the front-facing IP address, the outside IP address. That's useless to us, right? It's never going to find me, right? Because we have some kind of NAT server, right, which we have an option called address translation happening from outside to inside. We might have a local IP address of 10.0. whatever, and it's never going to find us here. There's no tunneling or forwarding, right? So please do not put any kind of add my current IP. Just use 0.0.0.0 for now. And what this does is it says we will accept entries from anywhere. That's the anywhere address. Okay? 0.0.0.0. And when we're done, I want you to click Finish and Close. And it's going to say, congratulations, setting up access rules, go to database. And we have our database created, right? Our cluster is created. This is where it is right now. And we want to go to Browse Collections. Browse Collections. Let's go there. And when I browse collections, it says there's no collection. What do you want? Do you want to, here's something, load a sample data set or add my own data? This one, right? Add my own data. Do that one. Okay? So when we click Add My Own Data, we get the database name. Now, what I'm going to put in, and sometimes people had issues with this earlier today, I'm going to put in contacts, and then create. Let's try this. So contacts, and then create. And it should not give you any errors. It should just work, like so. Okay, now that you have both the database is contacts and the collection is contacts, if I click onto the collection here, this one right here, on the right, there's going to be an Insert Document button. You see it? So are you good? Insert Document button over here on the right. The Insert Document button is going to have two tabs, the hamburger tab or the curly brace tab. You want to click the curly brace tab, where you get something that looks like this. We're going to put a comma after this first ending curly brace, and we're going to go back to our app. We're going to go to our data. We're going to go to our contacts, right? This contacts. And what we're going to do here is we're going to grab just the inside part, not the curly braces. No curly braces, just the inside part. Copy it, go back, and paste it. And it should look like this at this stage. Okay? And if I go down to the bottom where it says insert and do it, then it's done, and you'll see that the actual data is put inside the database, inside my document. It's just I'm really maximized here. There it is. Have you done that? Is it working for you? Good. Let's do it again and again, a couple times. Insert, click on the curly braces, go add a comma, go in here, switch back to this, grab my other mock data over here, copy it, go back, and paste it. And we want to insert. Now there's another way to do this that's much faster if we have a large data set. We don't, so I'm okay doing this right now. We'll explore that another day. Just for the essence, for purposes of time, I'm just going to do this way and inject my 3 pieces of data or datum. Okay? Insert. And now I have my 3 pieces of data. There they are. Okay, on the database. Yay, awesome. So when I have my data inserted, right, the next piece is for me to go on the top left where it says deployment. There is a database deployment link up here. I don't know if you see that. So deployment, then database. And there in here, it tells us to connect, view monitoring, and browse collections. We want to click on connect. The connect tells me, how would you like to connect? I want to use my own application, this one, which gives me a little string. This string is what we want to copy, right? This one here. I want to copy this string that we come here. Do you have, all of you have this string? I want to copy this string, and then what I want to do is I want to go back to our application, and I want to swim back to our config db.ts. Remember this part? And I want to name a new local, instead of local URI, I want to create a remote URI where I'm going to copy and paste that data that I just got from MongoDB Atlas. However, there's some stuff that's missing from this long string of data. One part is the password. That's wrong. You need to have copied that, like I asked you earlier, and put it into your notepad and inject it here. Let's do that. I'll show you what mine looks like. It's a complex password, like this. So that goes right in here. Okay? Like so. And then the other thing you have to change is it's not called my first database. That is incorrect. It's called contacts, lowercase c. So just highlight this part and just put in contacts. That's my new link. Because it's going to go to the contacts database and it's going to look inside the contacts collection. Save. Now that we've added in the remote URI, that's nice. Let's also switch up my host so that it shows that we're connected to MongoDB Atlas. And this is just a developer thing, so it signifies to me how we're connecting. Now, once we have this, we have our URI, our remote URI. We've changed our host. We need to update our app.ts in the server side so that it uses our remote URI instead of our local URI. Let's do that now. So app.ts, not this one, the one that's inside of our server side, right? That's inside of our config app.ts, this one. And inside there, if I scroll down, you're going to see that there is a connection string of local URI. Please change this to remote URI. Next week, we'll do it so it's automatic. Save. And the best thing to do now is check your nodemon. So if everything goes well, then in my nodemon, we should see we're connected. Like this. Which means that the data we're getting should be from the remote server, not from our local MongoDB server. Let's close down our MongoDB server now. So we have our MongoDB server. Let's just close it down. But well, we could do that, but whatever. And here, I also want to close off this connection, Mongo. So now all we have is our nodemon. And if I go back and check up online here, if I go here and here and here, no problem. And if I go to show contact list, this information is coming from the server online. It's no longer coming from my local server because I'm getting the data. It's being fed to me by MongoDB Atlas. Now, we've done the MongoDB Atlas part. Let's put this up on GitHub. So added support for MongoDB Atlas. Git push. Okay, now we shut down Visual Studio Code. Let's do that. So Visual Studio Code shut down for a second. What I want to do now is I want to go into my operating system files, please. And wherever you have your repo for my Heroku live site, this one, I want you to clean it up, so remove all this stuff inside of it, except for the .git folder. And I want you to copy paste the stuff from your section 1 ICE 11 folder, all this stuff, like we've done in the past. Copy. And inside my Heroku Live Site folder, paste. Now it's going to take a second, and while this is doing this, let's make a new Heroku site. Okay? So I'm going to go to Heroku, and in my Heroku, I'm going to make a new site. I'm going to call this site WEBD6201-Winter 2022, and you guys are section 1, and I'm going to click Create. So now I have section 1, section 2, and section 3 different sites I'm going to keep. And, sorry? Where am I going to do what? New app. I mean, where you go back and you go new app. So, yeah, it's a brand new app. So now I'm going to click on GitHub for my deployment method. But we want to push, before we do this, we want to push our Heroku Live Site stuff, which is here right now. I want to push this up to GitHub. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to drag and drop. I'm going to drag and drop Heroku Live Site in here. And I'm going to git add dot. It's going to take a second because there's a lot to add. Git commit -m, and I'll say added live site for section 1. Git push. And now that it's pushed, I can go back to my Heroku and connect it like we've done before. So I'm going to search for Heroku here, because that's what I called it, Heroku Live Site. It's going to find the Heroku link. I'm going to connect it. And when I do, I'm going to enable automatic deploys, and I'm going to deploy my branch, and I'm going to watch it, and if everything goes well, then it's going to work just fine. Just watch it go.
Just keep pressing it. Yeah. Just brute force it. Like eventually it will create.
I have so many. I don't even care. Let's keep going.
Like it gave me that error. I was like, yeah, you have too many. I was like, okay. And I just clicked it again. Didn't work. And I clicked it again. I was like, okay.
Yeah. And then once I've done that, I can view it. And if I view it, it looks like this, right? No, it is what it is. If it gives me a blank page, it gives me a blank page. There it is. And then if I go to contact list, if I go to show contact, then hey, this data is coming from MongoDB Atlas. Let's make sure we know that that's the case. I'm going to add a contact. Let's add in Bruce Banner. And let's go with the contact number, which is 416-555-5552. And I'll say that the Hulk at example.com, add, there's Bruce Banner, and let's check the database now. We can go up to the database, take a look, right? And what we want to do is we want to go to Browse Collections, and we want to look inside of my contacts collection, where at the bottom we should see Bruce Banner right here. And now we know that we have a full trip. Round trip, we have everything, and we're done. We've done Heroku, MongoDB Atlas with full CRUD up online, all in one class, 2 hours. Right? That's huge, guys, because I'll tell you, if you did any other technology, it would be way harder than this. That's why Zoe asked me earlier this week, tell me why we go with a NoSQL database. Tell me why we go with MongoDB. It's because of this. This is what drives it, the ease of use here, right? And if we have this, guys, you can use this kind of stuff for, it's compatible with mobile apps, it's compatible with games, it's compatible with C++, Java, whatever, any language you want. There's all kinds of of code samples for every language. Yes?
So, because this isn't relational, if you need to replicate some of the functionality of relational databases, can you kind of configure it to sort of make it work?
You can, but if you're going to go there, if you need to have the relationships, then just connect to MySQL. You can, there's other than Mongoose, there's another NPM module you can use, and there's another set of instructions with similar things with CRUD and all that stuff to connect to MySQL. I recommend that. If you're going to have true relationship requirements, do it that way. Because MongoDB is great, but you can swap it out for MySQL or Postgres or a SQL Server or something else. Doesn't matter. We're just using MongoDB because of the mean stack. Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node, right? And of course, because it's awesome.
Do you know some examples of like fairly well-known apps that would use Mongo?
eBay. eBay.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Take a look. It's like there's a huge amount of apps out there that use it, like huge apps, right? And you wouldn't believe how many, right? If you look up how many. They created their own stuff. They created their own. You can do whatever you want to do, right? So remember that the good thing about this is speed. Look how speedy this is compared to MySQL. For the first time, if you run MySQL, you run it a couple times, you add a WordPress site, it's going to slow down, right? Because of the PHP backend and the Apache server. Not this, right? This is awesome for free, right? So that's awesome. Okay, that's it for me, guys, for today. We've done all we wanted to. Just a recap of the stuff that's happening. So next week, remember that test 4 will be released early in the week, Monday, Tuesday timeframe. You'll have all week to get it done until Saturday, and it's worth 7.5% of your final grade. So please make sure that you don't forget to do that. Otherwise, ICE 11 should say actually Saturday. That's incorrect. And Lab 4 is now due week 14. We'll go into more about Lab 4 details now that you know what to ask, like I said, by next Wednesday. Okay? Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend, and that's it for me. All right.